who here has gone through, we'll say, a post-middle school breakup?
Just a quick roadmap about Onward. We really look at the logistics and the holistics of the post-breakup life, right? So like the first thing we want to make sure is that you're in a comfortable physical dwelling, you have somewhere to live, whether that's an apartment, a co-living situation, whether that's some kind of housing opportunity. We want to make sure you're safe and secure, so we'll talk a little bit about the housing piece. We'll also talk about, finances. Like, it can be a really big financial lift to go from, commingling finances, commingling Netflix accounts, like all that kind of stuff, and then to really have to set out on your own and learn those adult skills. So we'll be touching on the financial piece. And finally, and of course, kind of most importantly, and what Hollywood certainly hones right in on, is that sort of emotional self-care piece, right? We want to make sure that in this next phase, you're entering it in a really powerful and resilient, it's the next chapter of your life, and that can be really exciting, but also scary.
According to USA Today, 32% of millennials would break up with their significant other for a $37,000 annual raise.
Wow.
So I'm not sure what that makes you think, but
just a reaction.
So obviously, finances are sort of a big piece of relationships. Often when you hear about marriages dissolving, it's the finances didn't work out. And
I can see some of you doing that math right now.
When you're going through a breakup, what's going to be the most challenging part is separating the emotions from the finances, from the cash flow, from the debts, the responsibilities that you have, while your heart is healing and your world is changing before your very eyes. So we find that people are more comfortable getting physically naked with others before financially naked. So nobody wants to talk about their credit score, their student loan debt, but yeah, I'll take my gloves off, sure, why not? It's true, it's really true. And so we guide you through all of the really specific details of your finances. And then what we do is we listen to really what's important to you. And if it's important to have that Equinox membership that you go to every single day, and you're just sweating out the emotions, let's keep it in the mix. I'm not here to pull the plug on rooftop rosés or anything like that.
I help people all of the time move in together and move out together. So preparing your finances and preparing your financial picture for your next place is super important to think about. Okay, well, do I have enough money in the bank? Do I need to make a quick turnaround and make a decision? Maybe signing a year lease under time constraints isn't the right thing for me, and I should find a more temporary situation. I know I've talked about it with you guys, about finding a short-term rental or something that's already furnished, so that you're not then also buying brand new furniture to furnish your apartment and make a commitment for a year to a neighborhood you don't know, so that you're making some decisions that make you feel comfortable and that you feel confident that you're not making another year commitment to something that you're not 100% on. Right. If you have signed a year lease, you are legally bound to that year lease. And so even if there is a termination fee, some landlords can hold you to that. You're responsible for the amount of time left on your lease. So if you're 6 months in and they can't find another tenant, say something happens and the market goes into a crash and you can't find anybody to pay the rent that you were paying, they can either hold you responsible for the difference of the rent that they find for a new tenant, or hold you responsible till they find a new tenant. So even if you're not living there, you could be having to pay the rent because that's your legal obligation under the contract.
who has read their iTunes agreement that it says click on this? I've never read it. Mario?
Oh, you have?
I have not, but my dad just called me asking me if I charged him his iTunes.
There you go. You get these long DocuSign contracts. I mean, I'm sure the contracts that you deal with.
Let's not hate on DocuSign. They're great.
But we're not. If you're not an attorney, you're not trained to read the legalese, and it's very easy to say, okay, this looks good, and then you don't realize what exactly have I agreed to. So I think you bring up a lot of excellent points with regard to real estate. Now that we're all terrified, and now that we've talked about a lot of uncomfortable topics, I think we should turn to something that's a little bit more lighthearted.
When you break your leg, you go to the hospital, right? And a breakup can in a lot of ways be that hospital visit. You don't go to the doctor every single day, but when you're going through this massive transition in your life, you want to really marshal those resources and make sure that you're getting that care, that you're looking at your finances, that you're looking at your housing situation thoughtfully. And I think therapy, while mental health can be very stigmatized in this country for a lot of different reasons that we'll talk about, or not talk about, but think about, I think it's a really important moment moment for you to think about how how you're feeling and what you're going through. So I might jump to Sarah really quickly because obviously therapy can be a tremendous resource.
We all know that breakups are terribly destabilizing. They're awful. They're really terrible. And I think people get really disorganized. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of tasks to be taken care of. So agree with you that it's important to do self-care, to build in self-care, to prioritize it. But that's the external. And I think often people don't turn to the internal enough. Since I am in the business of helping people change, I also think that every life transition can be an opportunity. Life transitions can be sort of these sliding door moments where you can change from one place to another. You know, we all live our lives according to the script of what we tell ourselves who we are. And I think while incredibly destabilizing, breakups can be times that you can recraft that story. Who am I in this breakup? Who am I when I'm in an adverse situation? Can I recover from this? It seems like impossible, but I can do it. And then you tell yourself you did it and you observed it. And I think that therapy can serve a really critical role there in crafting that new narrative and creating a new space for yourself. And if you can move away from the relationship with a shared narrative, not just your own narrative of what happened, what transpired, how did this relationship unravel, I really think, and anecdotally, I think this has been true with the couples I've treated, that you can file it away more accurately. We all have kind of a mental file cabinet of experiences. And if you're still dealing with it, it's still coming up, you're still having ruminative thoughts about it all the time, it's sort of like coming across a death certificate on your desk constantly, and it sort of keeps being upsetting, as opposed to it being filed neatly. You put it away in the file cabinet, it still exists, it's always going to be there, but it's not disrupting your life every day.
Another element that we shouldn't ignore and tend to ignore in the sort of pursuit of all of the logistic elements of the breakup is sort of how the body reacts and receives stress. And for many, self-care has sort of become a big buzzword right now, but what does that really mean? And we have here Dr. Sherry, who's, for those of you who got to do the ear seeds earlier or try some of the acupuncture stuff, Dr. Sherry is the founder, of Within, which is actually right around the corner. It's like really close. And Within's mission, and you guys are relatively new as well, is to sort of help others heal their bodies and relax their minds in order to lead happier, healthy, and more fulfilled lives every day, which is amazing.
I really think breakups are an opportunity for self-growth. And you get to learn. You get to learn from your past, you get to pivot, and you get to manifest your future. And I think if you do it consciously, you don't repeat the pattern. A lot of people come out of a break and they're like, I married my father, I married my mother. So don't marry them again. Get conscious. So acupuncture decreases your cortisol levels, which is your stress hormone, and it increases your serotonin and dopamine levels, which are your happy hormones. Okay, so it's really good for stabilizing you emotionally. It helps you get calm. And a lot of people report having epiphanies on the table. It's similar to like meditation, so it can also help you construct what you want your new life to look like and help you process some of the learning from your past.
While we're hitting on these different lenses of breakups, these are by no means like the end all be all of all the issues you're confronting. Like every day Mika and I are like finding, oh gosh, it's like really sucky to get off like a cell phone plan together, or like, decouple from social media. Like there's so many other areas that sort of are impacted by this. But I really want to thank all of our panelists and do kick it off to questions. Do you want to do that?
Just in closing too, before we open it up, again, to echo what Lindsay said, thank you everyone for being here. We think this is a really important topic that people are afraid to talk about. We live in this world now where we're just so used to sort of sharing our breakup stories, but we're very cognizant of the fact that, this is painful, and that's okay. I think it's okay to grieve, to mourn. This is normal. We both went through this, and thank you so much. Please, Mika, enjoy.